we did the honoring of our servicemen in place of our meditation today. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump into my talk. And it's about a consciousness of peace. And I wanted to, I was shared with Mary DiVincenzo this morning. I said I got all my paperwork and stuff ready over the last couple of days to put the ideas and stuff down for my talk. And I have, I don't know, maybe 7, 8 Science of Mind textbooks, maybe that many. That's probably as many times as I took Science of Mind 100. That's how many textbooks I have. But anyway, I went to my bookshelf and I pulled out a Science of Mind textbook and didn't think about which one it was because Bob had a lot of Science of Mind textbooks too. We have a conglomerate. And I picked up the textbook, and on the side of it, he has his name written on the edge of the pages. And I knew what I was looking for, so I opened up the textbook, and there was a little piece of paper that opened up that was in the book, and it said, "I am only a whisper away." And it had his birth date on it. Where that came from, I know. But at the moment I opened it, I didn't know. So to me, it was a way of sharing, Bob sharing with me his continued support and love that we shared tremendously for 40 years. So I wanted to share that because there's places inside of us that sometimes find no peace, no matter what, whether it's been a tragic incident that you had in your life or the loss of someone that's very special to you or a friend or people that you just know that have moved on. And because of that, there's that little space that has those little rough edges that can't quite get to that place of sacred peace, that place of allowing yourself to just breathe and know everything is okay and everything is going to be okay. And then when I hear that song that you just played, Wings Beneath My Wings, I know Bob's standing probably right behind you or somewhere, telling you that's what you needed to play. But that was one of our very special songs that we used to listen to. So I didn't know when I did all this writing last night and when I started this morning that it had anything to do with my husband. But apparently it does. So I figured I would go ahead and just step into it in that direction. So if you do have that place within you, or you know someone that does, that has that spot that just can't seem to be soothed, that can't seem to find that space of knowing that it's okay, that everything is going to be fine, that maybe after this morning we share a few things together that'll be a little opening that maybe will smooth those edges just a little bit. So when Dr. Jim asked me to speak for him, he said, "I've got Consciousness of Peace. Can you work with that?" And I said, "Sure, I can do that one." So I've spent, I don't know, he asked me probably 3 weeks ago to do this. And so it was like, okay, Consciousness of Peace, Consciousness of Peace. It's going to be Memorial Day weekend. How can I work that in? So I decided that I would do some investigating to find out exactly what that meant. And there is several ways to discover those places. Now, the first thing I thought of is, okay, where would I go? Where would I want to go if I had to go in search of peace? Where would I go? So the first thing I thought of is, well, maybe I could find it if I went to, say, a mountain or a river. There's a beautiful stream where I could sit on the rocks and maybe dangle my feet in the water and just feel that presence and that strength of nature. Maybe that's where I would be able to go. Maybe that's where I'd be able to find that peace I'm searching for. Or maybe the desert, or maybe a beautiful garden. Look how gorgeous that is. Where you'd hear the water and you'd smell the flowers and listen to the birds and know that you're not by yourself. There's no place on the planet you can be by yourself. Because guess what? You're always with you. How about that one? I don't know if I'd want to go out there, but I might look through a telescope and see it. That would create the vastness of what of what is, and that space that I recognize that, man, I'm just an itty bitty little piece of that wholeness, just a tiny little bit. So maybe that's where I'd go, or the desert. This is, I think, in Arizona. Is that the Grand Canyon? No, that's not the Grand Canyon. Monument, yeah. So it's beautiful. Maybe that's the spaciousness, the openness. I need room. I need just a blank screen that I can look at and kind of create my own space, create my own sense of sacredness. Maybe that's what I would need. So I continued the search. The ocean is a favorite place for me. I don't like going in the ocean. Too many little creepy critters are in there. So I don't like going in there. I spent too much time in there when I was a teenager. No. So, but the sound of the waves and the rhythm that they create, and that's the rhythm that has to do with the sun and the moon and all of those things that tie together. All of those things are there. And then you see, and the sunset, either going at night or going in the morning for sunrise. Such a beautiful place. Now, those are places you all could go, right? To find peace, right? Lots of places you could go. I don't know if there's not any of those places up there that you guys can think of that you would go. But the place is physically a place. I did some research and I found this wonderful website, and it's called Consciousness Corner. That is just terrific, lots of cool information. And the lady that I think she blogs this one is Jackie Woodside. And Jackie was explaining that there are two different kinds of peace. There is the physiological peace, which is what we just talked about. A place you could be, a mountain, streams, or any of those places where you would feel that sense of peace and calmness. That was that, and you get a chance to relax, to let go of those day-to-day activities, the day-to-day stress, any of those things that build up for you in a given period of time. That's one kind of peace, but that's a peace you have to go in search of. You have to go find it. You have to go get to it. So the other one, the other side of that peace that she was talking about is called spiritual peace. Spiritual peace is that peace that we get our connection with God or the divine spirit or whatever word you use that has emotional attachment for you in the meaning of the word. And it is that space that when we get there, that the all-knowing within ourselves that everything is fine, just as it is. We don't have to add to anything, take away from anything for it to be just what it is. There's a Dr. David Hawkins. He's written a lot of things. He has in Sedona, Arizona, he has a place that's, he researches consciousness. And he did a research on the different levels of consciousness. And I think he did it from, if I'm remembering her article correctly, from 0 to 1,000 in numeric value for levels of consciousness. And he found through his research that the greatest level of consciousness that you can reach, which is greater than love and joy, is peace. He found that that's the greatest level that you can reach that gives you that knowingness within you that everything is good, that everything will work out, that everything is exactly what it needs to be. And he went on talking about it in the research paper, it doesn't really matter whether it's a row of petunias that you plant. And in your planting, you put the seeds in, and you water it and you weed it and stuff, but you don't have to tell it how it has to grow, right? It just does that all by itself. You don't have to do that. It just knows that that's what it's supposed to do. It doesn't really care what color the flowers are. It doesn't care whether there's weeds mixed in with it. It doesn't care whether there's sun or rain or snow or anything else. It just knows what it needs to do. So it does it. If you think about, I don't know about you people here, but me, I start lots of projects, and I have lots of projects ongoing all the time. And sometimes we need a sense of peace about, man, I really got to get this stuff done. I've got this, and I've got this, and I've got this, and I've got this. And from his research, it doesn't matter. When you get that spiritual sense of peace, it doesn't matter whether the project is half done, 3/4 done, or completed. It doesn't matter. It's an evolving process, and that it's perfect, just the way it is. It's recognizing that no matter what condition it's in and what status or form it's in, it's perfect. How many of you can close your eyes and look at your house or your office or anything like that and know that it's perfect? How many can do that? That takes a lot of peace, doesn't it? That would take some time to get to know that all that is just fine, just the way it is. If you never touched pen to paper again to finish that story you're writing or that poetry that you're doing or that music that you're creating, if you never touched it again, it's perfect, just the way it is. That has meaning. So the thinking I was doing about this is go, okay, that sounds all wonderful. I love the idea of going out and finding some place that I could feel comfortable and relaxed and breathe and all of that. That's great. And to be able to allow myself to get to a place inside of myself that no matter what condition something is in, it's okay. It's perfect. I don't have to touch it. It's fine. That's the ultimate to me, man. I think that's great. So finding that, but I thought, well, how in the world do you get there? What do you have to do? What in the world do you have to do to uncover all of those things? There's a word that we all use. It's called but. But I need to do this first. But I need to do that first. But this hasn't been done, and that hasn't been done, and on and on and on. So when we say that we're really ready to find that spiritual sense of peace, but first, I have to this and I have to that. Well, the underlying meaning of but is, behold, the underlying truth. So when you say but, you are really saying, behold, the underlying truth. And that underlying truth is where you are at that moment. What that truth is for you. That's what that means. So when you say but, think about that. That those are the things. But both of those things, both of the different types of peace go hand in hand. You couldn't have one really without the other. I mean, how many can go to the beach and sit at the beach and, whoops, hello.
Have their wireless drop off.
Well, guess what? It's going in my pocket. Can it go in my pocket?
Yeah.
I won't hurt it?
No.
Okay, good. There we go. Now it's in my pocket. Sorry about that. Entertainment.
It was entertaining.
But well, the underlying truth is it fell out of my pocket. So here we go. So how many of you can go to the beach or go to the mountains or go to a river and really find that sense of peace that you're looking for? This is helping. Okay. How many of you have no clue as to how to do that? Oh, good, no hands. Yeah. All right. So one of those things is that going to the mountains and going to the oceans and going to those different places is a fabulous idea. That rejuvenates us and helps us get back to where we want to be. But what if you didn't have a car and you couldn't get to the beach? And you didn't have time off work and you couldn't get to the beach, or you couldn't get to the mountains, or you couldn't get anywhere else? What if you didn't have any of that? But all you had was what was right around you. How could you create that same sense of the mountains and the oceans and things like that? You could, I think there's a channel on your television that you could get those pictures and you could sit and look at it. But how many can close their eyes and hear the roar of the ocean? We can do that. Close your eyes and hear the roar of the ocean. How many can breathe in the ideas of what a flower or what a rose smells like? We can actually sit and look what a rose looks like, but what does it smell like? What about hearing birds? Or hearing the squirrels scampering across the dry grass up into the trees? Hearing all of those things. Can you get yourself to a place there? Well, by creating a consciousness of peace, consciousness means a mental awareness. When you're mentally conscious of what's going on around you and in you. So when you're in that consciousness place, it's very easy to see all of that stuff, right? And the other thing that we have the opportunity to do too is if you have an altar at home, or when you do meditation, if you do the meditation and you do prayer work and things of that nature, do you have your candles and maybe flowers or whatever it is that helps bring you to that place? All those things are great, but what if you didn't have a match to light the candle? Or if you have chimes, you lost your little thing that you hit for the chimes. Then what do? Oh, well, guess it won't be peaceful today. And go on. Well, it's that place that, okay, so you have mental awareness that you can create. Everybody knows what a candle looks like when it's burning, right? You can create that picture in your mind. And I don't know how many can consciously bring to mind the smell of the flame and the candle burning. That's if you have a candle that doesn't have any fragrance. But bringing those to mind, those are the things that give us the opportunity to be able to create that sense of consciousness, that sense of peace, without having to go anywhere and do anything. But the other things about, and I keep saying but, do you hear that? But. The other things are practice. It takes practice to do those things. There's a job that you have. Most of us don't like this job. But there's a job that you have, and it's called taming your ego. How many have an ego? Come on. Come on.
Ego, I go.
That's right. Wherever you go, I go. Right? We all have that ego. I know if you have the opportunity to go to the beach, I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to sit on the beach. I'm going to do nothing but just not think. Not going to think about what's at home. I'm not going to think about nothing. Just going to go and do it. So you get to the beach, you put your blanket out and stuff, and you sit. Okay, your body is there, right? You got in the car and you drove there and you had an intention. So there you sit. But, behold the underlying truth. Guess what's going on? How many have a monkey mind? Anybody have a monkey mind? Yeah, here. Monkey mind has decided to invade you. And it's telling you, oh, did I leave the iron on? Did I lock the door? Oh, I didn't send that text. Oh, darn, I forgot to send that fax. Right? Those kind of things. So you took the step of going to take and experience physiological peace. But, there it is again, your mind didn't go with you. It stayed home. It didn't attend the experience you wanted. Okay? So when you allow yourself to move into that spiritual sense of peace, and you do meditating and things of that nature, and you give yourself the opportunity, the time and the space and the music and the candles or whatever it is that you use that helps you create that sacred space for yourself. And you sit down and you do your breathing and you move into your meditation. Do you get a visitor called that monkey mind, that ego that pops up and says, no, we have other things to do? Or you aren't able to experience that. So those are internal individualistic things that we all work with all the time in order to find that space. Jackie Woodside shared a story, and I wanted to read it because I didn't want to have to paraphrase it. So I brought it with me so that I could read it to you. And she was explaining, you know, how in the world do you find that bliss, that knowingness that everything is going to be okay. She said that I spent traveling many years ago, but it was a winter trip to Florida from Boston, which can always be a bit of unpredictable due to New England weather. The whole trip ended up taking 18 hours to finally land in Tampa. I don't remember many of the details, but what I do remember was the presence of an older nun who was also making the journey. As you can imagine, the travelers were anxious, disgruntled, restless, and stressed. I noticed the older nun sitting across the waiting area from me, her face placid, her eyes serene, sitting across and just appearing to be very peaceful. When we finally left Boston and arrived in New York, we discovered there was more delays to come. The old nun, however, sat peacefully across the way, never looking the least bit concerned or uncomfortable, despite the long day we were all facing. Finally, I couldn't stand it any longer, so I went and sat next to her and started to chat. I said with a look of calm, which I'm sure she wasn't feeling, so peaceful and honestly not even tired. She looked at me and she said, "You have a question?" She said, "Yes. How can you be so calm, so peaceful, after this long, tiring day, knowing we had this much more to do before we reached our destination?" She smiled sweetly and said something I'll never forget. She said, "Why would I fret over this? I am exactly where I am, and where I am is always right and perfect place for me to be. There's nowhere to go. I'm just happy to be right here now." How many of us can find that space within ourselves to just sit around and observe and go, okay, this is fine, just where I am, absolutely fine. She didn't have any concerns about not catching her next flight, maybe having to wait even more. None of that occurred to her. She simply was in that spiritual place of peace. So we know that there's a possibility that we can all do that. And with individual practice is how that's accomplished, by our meditation and by our prayer work and by our just simply being open to what is at the moment we're experiencing it. But sometimes it takes a lot more than that. It takes practice of another kind. Because as I was sitting there and working on this on my computer last night, I said, you know, there's more to doing this, creating that sense of peace and that sense of knowing that everything is going to be okay. And that I have the opportunity to be good to my body and relax and rest and do those things. So the thinking I was doing was that if I wanted to really create a deep sense of spiritual peace that I could go to in a moment's notice, if I was in the middle of chaos and I had no avenue to scoot anywhere, go into a little room and shut the door and leave the chaos outside, how could I do that? How could I find that spiritual peace within me, knowing everything's going to be okay when everything is just erupting outside of me? And I have no control over any of that stuff that's erupting outside of me. There isn't anything I could say or do to make any changes. The only change I could make is within my own self and allowing myself to say, okay, here's what I'll do. And I took it a little bit further, going, okay, that I could do by myself. That's a good thing. But how could I show the world around me that this is possible? I'm certainly not going to go up to somebody and say, okay, come on now. There's a way. Just listen to what I have to say and you're going to find that peace and there's not going to be chaos around you. Come on, let me tell you, let me show you how. You can be given guidelines and things like that, but there isn't anybody in the world around that can do that for you because they don't think for you. They don't react for you. That's your job. Only you're the one that has that ability. So what I thought it would be interesting to do is to think about how I can be in that space of spiritual peace and give that sense to others without saying a word. So these are some of the things that I came up with. I can give love. I can sit in that airport and I can look at all the people that seem to be in chaos and stress and know all is well. I can't get in their minds and change it for them, but I can create an atmosphere. I can create an energy, so I could give love. I could give encouragement and share the wisdom that I've achieved from practicing this idea. Again, I wouldn't have to say a word. I could simply just be it. Be that wisdom. And that wisdom is knowing that I don't have to add to the chaos. I don't have to add to the person in the grocery line that's so disgruntled. I don't have to do that. There's a practice of kindness and compassion. Recognizing that people are in the place they're in, but I don't have to add my negative energy or my tension or my stress to that. I've got that I can give. Then there is a listening ear with an open heart. I'm going to step off for a second and tell you something that I read. I read in one of the Science of Mind magazine that this lady had practiced free listening. I just want to share this with you. Who knows what free listening is? Anybody have any ideas? Free listening is somebody comes up to says, you know, it's obvious you need somebody to listen to you, so I'll listen. So the person sits there and they listen, and your mind's going, oh, wow, you need this and you need that, and what about this, and how about doing that, and maybe you could do this, and maybe you could do that. That's not free. No, that's all kinds of strings hanging out there. Free listening is to simply be in their presence and hear what they have to say with no judgment, no anything, no attachment to needing to give them some direction or give them some ideas or anything like that. A lot of times that's one of the things that the practitioners practice too, is sometimes a person really doesn't want you to do nothing. All they want to do is have you listen. And that's a great practice to get into. And if you have that ability to allow yourself to be a free listener, can you imagine how well you can listen to yourself? Hear yourself saying things going off in your mind, going, well, listen, and then over on this side saying, well, if you did this and you did this and you should have did that and you should have did this, then this wouldn't be. We don't listen to ourselves very well. So practice free listening with yourself. I thought that was a really cool idea. But just remember it's free. They don't have to take anything because you're not offering anything. It's simply free. Which is another way that you can create that sense of spiritual peace around other people, that you don't have to change anything. So the other one is forgiveness and acceptance. She has Jackie has this, she is a organizational, does constant consult and counseling and things of that nature. And she says she has a mantra. And she says, love them the way they are because that's who they are, because they ain't going to change. So when she's listening, this is what she's saying. Love them the way they are because that's how they are, and they aren't going to change. So that's another way you can create spiritual peace for yourself. And the more of that I think that we practice and that we do every day, can you imagine how much different our world would be? When we talk about, and you hear people say, well, you know, we need to bring peace to the world. We need to do this. We need to have meetings. We need to have rallies, and we need to have this, and we need to have that. But if every person that was involved in that need would simply be that peace themselves, there wouldn't be a need. Because the more we allow ourselves, behold the underlying truth, the more we do that for ourselves, the greater our world will change. Little bit by little bit, one person at a time. It can't be done in huge masses. When Bob was in the military, he was over in Germany, and he was there when the Berlin Wall went up. And he said that was the most amazing thing that he'd ever seen, to actually physically, and he was in the teaching too, physically see this wall go up between two groups of people that had nothing to do with the wall. They didn't want it on either side, but it went up, and how the ways in which it went up. And then when we had our school, Kidsville, he was able to take the kids, and they went to the Reagan Library, and they actually got to see a piece of the Berlin Wall down. He said that was the most awesome experience he ever had, to know that in all the years that he practiced science of mind, that he witnessed something that appeared to be extremely negative, to the other side, to know that that was dissolved, and that that consciousness of those people and those organizations had changed, and that wall came down. So the sense of peace that we have, whether it's physical peace or whether it's the spiritual sense of peace that we create, it changes the world. And it does in such small increments that sometimes we don't notice. So when we notice, that's when things are really different. Ernest Holmes said that it is only as we allow the divine circus to flow through us in and out that we truly express life, which is so important. One of the other things that I felt was important that helps with the spiritual part of creating a consciousness of peace is be of service to others. Doesn't mean you have to step out there and say, here I am. Be of service in small ways. Be in service of what can you give to others? What can you give with your time and the talent that you have? What kind of peace can you give with that? It doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be monetary value. It can just be something that you have that you can do for others. And have you ever thought about at the end of the day, did I make a difference in somebody's life today? Did I? Sometimes it takes a lot of thinking that if you did that. As simple as smiling to somebody could change their whole day. And there's lots and lots of stories that go along with a simple word, a simple gesture to someone that you don't even know. And a lot of times it's doing things in organizational ways and things like that for people you'll never ever meet. You'll never see them face to face. You'll never know what your love and what your energy and what your sense of peace gave to that job or gave to that organization or any of that in the way in which you gave it. You'll never see that. But what a great way for that idea to fall through you in absolutely knowing that it's all okay. It's perfect just the way it is. Doesn't have to change. It's just perfect. Because change happens when it's ready. Sometimes I think, anybody have piggy bank? Piggy bank? Anybody have piggy bank? I do. I have a piggy bank. And I put my quarters, my nickels, and my dimes in there because it's too heavy to carry in my purse. So I put it in there. And I got to thinking about it. I did a program with the kids, and I said, change is these quarters, nickels, and dimes. It's change. How does that work? What does it change? Why do they call it change? You should have heard the answers I got. I won't go into them now. But anyway, the change that you get from your change is that when you do something with your change, you made a difference. You added to the economy. You made your purse or wallet lighter or pocket lighter. There's just so many things that you have changed simply because you released your change. Think about that. Little tidbits to think about later. So there's lots and lots of ways in which we can be of service and we can make a difference in other people's lives simply by being who we are. The amount of peace that you experience is because of what you choose to be. We all have that freedom to be and to do exactly as we choose. So one of our huge responsibilities, and most of us are pretty aware of it, but in case you weren't, and this has to do with, I changed physiological peace to personal peace, because that's kind of what it is. It's a personal peace within yourself that you do for yourself. And you should, I'm not shooting you, sorry about that, erase that. I'm not shooting you. The opportunities can arise for you to plan your vacations and really go on vacation. Leave everything at home. To go on vacation. To spend time in recreation. Okay, now here, let me tell you what my recreation is. And you can all laugh, it's okay. One of my recreations that I have, that I enjoy, and sometimes I just lose all sense of time, is when I sew. If I have a sewing project that I'm working on, I can start it at noon and I'm still going at it at 2 in the morning. Because to me, that is a sense of peace for me. I get that ability to create. I get that ability to be able to let go of all the stuff that's kind of been hanging around all week long and just do that. Not think about anything else. So that's one of the things that I do for recreation is I create. And I create with my sewing machine and my creativity as far as what I can do with it. So that's one of the things. Another part of the spiritual practices is meditation and prayer work and things of those types. And just simply allow yourself to know that you have everything inside of you that is necessary and available to create that personal peace for yourself and the ability to create that spiritual, sacred peace for yourself. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't even have to buy a book. Books are helpful sometimes. But you don't have to go anywhere. You don't need candles. You don't need any of those things. They're great to have, and it's like frosting on the cake. You're the cake, that's the frosting. So the frosting on the cake. So allow yourself, if you choose, to find that space that makes a difference for who you are. And as you do, you not only change yourself, you open up the possibilities for your spouse, your roommate, or whoever to change, your families, your neighborhood, your community, and your world. All of that responds to you from where you come from. So I thank you very much for sharing this time with me and knowing that we all are experts right now on how to create personal peace and spiritual peace. Thank you.